Okay, what's going on, people?
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's episode
What's
8.
going on, gang?
What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back, welcome everybody back. This is episode 8, Good Cop, Bad Cop. Hey, guys, if you're watching from YouTube or Facebook, hey, share the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our videos are not always in other locations, so they'll always be on YouTube. So definitely like, subscribe, and share. This is your boy Adolph J. Rocky, aka Gerard Ben Lamont, coming to you from the east side of Detroit. Stedman, like to introduce yourself, sir.
Where my man Stedman at?
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead, Russ.
Yep, what's going on, y'all? It's Ernest Russell. No Mal here in Lansing. Just want to wish everybody a happy Black History Month. And with that being said, hopefully you guys will enjoy this Black advocacy / political discussion we're going to have tonight.
And I'm Darvell. I am your third or fourth host of this fantastic crew, and I'm also the one doing the live production from just outside of Detroit in the burbs, just trying to make sure everyone gets a good political education and enlightenment. Today's pretty special. We're going to be talking about some local stuff, right? Gerard, I think Stedman's coming back in too.
Yeah. I had my headphones muted.
Man, come on, man. We got a situation going down, man.
Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about SB 1034, Michigan Senate Bill 1034, formerly known as the African. What is it called? A bill to create an African, Caribbean, and Diaspora Affairs Commission and an Office of African, Caribbean, and Diaspora Affairs. So yeah, you can play the clip. We'll break it down. This is the senator who introduced it. Her name is Erica Geis from Taylor. She actually, I think when she joined the House of Representatives, the State House, she took over her husband's seat. Her husband was term limited. She's not from Michigan originally. She's from somewhere out east. So
interesting. All right, so let's get this going here. So I'm gonna just read this if y'all can hear me before I play this video. Basically, listen. Erica said, today I introduced SB 1034 to establish the African, Caribbean, and Diaspora Affairs Commission. With Black people from across the diaspora representing 14% of the state population, we're the one large ethnic group that does not have representation among the state's ethnic commissions. So we're talking about Michigan here. This is State Senator from Michigan. Now, State Senate Bill 1034 would create a 15-member intergenerational commission tasked with reviewing, studying, encouraging, and recognizing the achievements of African, Caribbean, and diaspora residents in Michigan. It is long overdue to have a commission that will address systemic barriers unique to Black community here in Michigan. Okay, let's see what she's talking about.
President, and I'd like my remarks printed in the journal.
Without objection, so ordered.
On my desk today, I have a bill that would establish the African, Caribbean, and Diaspora Commission. With Black people from across the diaspora representing 14% of the state population, we are the one large ethnic group that does not have representation among the state's ethnic commissions. As we examine the issues of racial equity, systemic institutional racism, implicit bias, and other issues that disproportionately affect the Black community across the board, it is long overdue to have such a commission. The commission would be tasked with reviewing, studying, and encouraging and recognizing the achievements of Black people in Michigan from across the diaspora, and would also advise the governor, legislature, and Department of Civil Rights on changes that can be made to state policies and programs, as well as addressing systemic barriers unique to the Black community in Michigan. It will help us bend the moral arc towards justice, and establishing this commission is the right thing to do. The time is now, and I welcome your co-sponsorship to fill this gap in our ethnic commissions here in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Man, so
That's
Africa.
pretty.
So I mean, yeah. So
okay.
if you can pull up some of that bill,
Yeah.
um,
Let's pull that
and anybody
bill up.
interject. I know my headphones sometimes it sounds like I'm over talking y'all, but my headphones I don't always hear y'all.
Okay.
So I don't want y'all to think I'm just rambling or ramming through. But
that's all good. There's a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah. In general, with this bill, it's a decent bill, right? On its face, the idea is decent, right?
You're right.
The issue, we're gonna just start off with just the first line. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the first line because this says this act shall be known and may be cited as the African, Caribbean, and Diaspora Affairs Commission Act. And used in this act, so we got on page 2, line 1, African, Caribbean, and Diaspora residents of this state means individuals of African descent, including through Caribbean ancestors of African descent who reside in this state. The term includes residents of this state who are descendants of people from Africa who are subject to mass dispersion in connection with the transatlantic slave trade from the 1500s to the 1800s. And so right off bat, we got a problem. Because you separated Caribbean people as a separate ethnic group.
Right.
But then everybody else who's not Caribbean is just African. So
Just
my people been here.
Blackness.
Yeah. Right. My people been here 400 years and we African. But you from the Caribbean, you're not an African, you're a Caribbean. So it's a selective way that she tries to go about addressing this issue. And so, like, for example,
right.
Yeah.
Nobody else get an identity but Caribbean.
Right. We just black. You just black, you know, and that kind of goes to
No. You're just African.
Well, yeah. Right. And so, like, when she reads her article, she says it's 14% of the state is black or Caribbean diaspora, and we need a commission. So I crunched the numbers, and Darvell, if you could pull up the it should be the next hyperlink from the migrationpolicy.org, Migration Policy Institute. Looking at numbers, they go 1990, 2000, and 2018 for the state of Michigan. And it shows a total number of foreign-born residents as a percentage. It shows a total number of U.S.-born, shows the change over time. It breaks it down by race. It breaks it down by, location, by age. And so one of the things about it, so she said 14%. For the state's population, it's roughly 10 million people in Michigan, like 10.1 million people in Michigan totally. And so 14%, it's about 1.4 million black people. Totally, including immigrants. So including people who are foreign born. So when you look at the number for black, 5.8% of foreign born Michigan residents are black. 14.4% of Michigan residents that are black are native born. And so the number, the 5.8%, the total number for immigrants from another country is 695,000 people. So 5.8% of that number is the amount of foreign-born blacks in Michigan. That number is about 45,000 people. And so what's happening is you have a group of people, which is us, native-born black people, descendants of chattel slaves, or the institution of slavery, or freedmen, whatever you want to call it. 99.6% of us are born in this country and have ancestral ties to this country. 0.45%, which is 45,000 people in a state of 10 million total people, are from Africa, the Caribbean, or some other African diaspora member. And so the big deal is when you combine the two groups, because I do believe that there's a need for racial justice. When you combine the two groups, what happens is you link the needs and the responsibilities that you owe one group with another, and you can't focus properly. Because what I need as a person who's My grandparents, my great grandparents came to Michigan from the South. My grandmother was born in 1930. She was born in Michigan. She was born at Henry Ford Hospital. So what I need as a person in this state and in this city is going to be different than somebody who came over here after 65, most likely after the 80s, and to be specific, because of Detroit's tumultuous racial history and Michigan's racial history, you probably ain't came over here but to the 90s, to the state.
Yeah. And priorities different, you know?
Yeah. Whole different
entirely
set of problems.
different.
Whole different set of problems.
Your opportunity is different.
Yeah,
Everything.
Exactly. Everything.
And so even when you think about Africa, it's the second largest continent on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you still only have 5.7% of the total number of people immigrating to Michigan being black. You can combine that with the Caribbean. You combine that with the diaspora in South America. You combine it with black people in Canada. And you still only manage to get 45,000 total people coming to Michigan who are black, who are not born here. And so overall, this is what we see happen time and time again. And it's an issue that is born out of it's a white supremacist system that we all live under. That black people especially have had to fight against, and we talked about that even last episode with Bacon's Rebellion, having to fight against a system that is bound on oppressing black people at all costs. And so what has happened now is that the system has changed in that so back in the day it was white immigrants from Ireland, from Germany, from Italy who were coming over, and they were taking jobs for black people. They were able to do jobs that black people either were not able to do because of law or skill. Now, early on, black people could do everything because in the South, we were the machine. So that's when you got into the union shop and the clothes shop, because black people had all the skill. And so the white workers had to come together to create a system wherein black workers couldn't be hired. So they had closed union shop. You can't hire Negroes or niggers or whatever they was calling us at that time. Okay. And so, I want to go over the template right quick, because this is going to be later in this, if I can try to get my spiel in, go over the template just right quick.
Yep.
I'll be jumping around. I apologize.
Yeah.
Because you be over there handling business. I'll be giving Darvell headaches.
No, I got a good chart to show you that's going to just reference back to what you were saying
pull
about
that chart up while
people being here. You know what I'm saying?
You got the chart on this? Let's see that chart while I'm pulling up this.
All right. Let me stop sharing and reshare.
The template.
All right.
Oh, here it is.
You finna pull up the template?
I got it.
Okay.
I got the template.
So I got so what I did, because she wrote this bill, I wanted to write a script to let her know, and all the 13 co-sponsors on this bill, the majority of who are white, and not a majority, but a great number of those people are not native to Michigan. And while that's not necessarily indicative of what kind of work they can do for us in this state, it does show that they may have a different perception. If you're coming from California or you're coming from New York or New Jersey, which Geis is from the East Coast, her grandparents are Panamanian. So I don't know if both sets are Panamanian or just one set. But what happens is, if you have black parents who are just from here, you wouldn't say, I got Panamanian grandparents. You say one set is from Panama, one set is from here. So she doesn't have that connection to America that we have, the four of us have in this organization, in our show. And so that's going to change her perspective about what's necessary. And this is relevant, so I don't want anybody to think I'm just trying to throw knives. But she also has a white husband. So what that means is you are not a descendant of chattel slaves in this country, either from your family or your husband's family. So your children don't have any chance, if reparations is passed, of getting the kind of remittance that we are owed for 400 years of free labor and, back pay, redlining, Jim Crow, inability to access GI Bill, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the bill. If anybody watching, we'll have a link in the description. You can either call the list of senators, the state senators, or email them, change the pertinent information to put your information in, and let them know that you're dissatisfied, and we're going to try to see if we can get this bill changed. So I'll start. Hello, my name is blank, and I am your constituent from insert city and or district. So whatever your Senate district or city is, I'm writing this communication to ask Senator or Representative, so the senator that you're contacting, to reconsider their support for Senate Bill 1034. Black Americans have a rich, integral, and unique history to this country and state. The bill as written will unnecessarily confuse the specific reparative justice that is owed to non-Black immigrant Michiganders by referring to them collectively under the umbrella of African and by attempting to link the specific Black non-immigrant justice claim with Caribbean people of the African diaspora. The state of Michigan's Black immigrant population is approximately 0.47% overall, while the U.S.-born Black population is 14.4%, which translates to approximately 1.4 million people. These numbers, in my opinion, illustrate a pressing need in terms of priority and action. Detroit is the epicenter of the Black community in Michigan, and in Detroit, we have suffered under the compounding injustices of racism, white supremacy, and accrued inequality. I think it is important to address racial injustice in the state of Michigan and nationwide for all Black people. However, I think it does a disservice to both the native Black population, those who can trace their lineage to victims of chattel slavery in the United States of America, and Black immigrants to combine those efforts in this instance. The needs of all Black people are best served by separate commissions on separate bills with terminology that acknowledges the relationship descendants of victims of chattel slavery have with the United States of America as Americans, not as Africans. Your time and consideration in this matter are greatly appreciated. I look forward to hearing from you very soon. And so we just like people to get out and contact their, it's not even have to be your senator. Let them know that as a voting member, a voting citizen of the state of Michigan, you're dissatisfied and you would like a response to your critique of this bill. And so the link will be in the description box. You can email it, might be easier for most people, or you can call. We're going to have the list of the senators, their names, their faces, their email addresses, and their phone numbers so that you can contact them.
Yeah, man, this is very important to do. People, like, you know, this is that grassroots effort. These are your you know, politicians, whether they represent your district directly or not, because, you know, it doesn't matter. They have the ability to create legislation and do things that will have an impact on you. So, you know, we need to reach out. This is, you know, we have to have some sort of agency in this whole political process. And this is it. Letting you know, these people know, like, hey, this isn't this needs to be reworded. You know, we understand the intention is great and all, but we need some specificity, okay? Because, you know, the problem I have with this is that everyone's listed as African, or we have African listed, but we don't have but the Caribbean is specifically listed out of all the diaspora. Why even call it African, Caribbean, and diaspora? You just could say African diaspora, and that would cover everyone if that's what you wanted. But because of her uniqueness, all right, due to the fact that she is a person of Black immigrant descent, you know, that specificity she ensured to include in this bill. So, you know, we need to push back those of us who are, you know, descendants of those who went through chattel slavery, the freedmen of this country. You know what I'm saying? We need to ask for specificity.
And just to jump in, like, the language that was used there is similar to like the language that has been mentioned in a lot of our federal policies and things like that, and it has been to the detriment of Black Americans because of that lack of specificity. So what we're trying to do is basically get our people to prioritize the right agendas, basically by seeing the right agendas, just as Stedman and those folks were saying, because of our backgrounds, we have a unique history and also have unique needs. And so in America, our people don't have the same issues as the Somalian refugees who are coming here, or any other ethnic group that you could spot out that aren't native to this country. And so that's all I wanted to add in that on that piece, guys.
So there's Erica right there.
And to be clear, Right.
No, what was your point?
You can go
Clear, to be clear.
Well, to be clear, this is not about trying to deny immigrants justice or recognition for the problems that they face for their unique situation. But it is an acknowledgement that each of us, immigrant groups and Native Blacks, have a unique situation that needs specific remittance to be given. You can't just do this broad brush policy, because that is how you take a policy like affirmative action, which Lyndon B. Johnson introduced at Howard University to specifically allow for what he called equality of outcomes. And you have the major beneficiary of reparations being white women, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a situation where the white man is the dollar.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not specific. Right. You allow it to be diversity or inclusive or what minority, and none of those are black. None of those means descendants of chattel slavery or descendants of the victims of chattel slavery in this country.
And you can't piggyback off of that history. You can't piggyback off that history to try to get your own type of legislation. So I think initially in that bill she mentioned slavery, and eventually it would lead to the studying Jim Crow and things that actually affected one specific ethnic group.
Right.
So that's the trick.
You're just trying to steal the energy, man.
Yeah, the flat blackness theory.
To give it
She even used King when she said trying to bend the arc of history toward justice. That was King. I mean, that's one of King's famous quotes. And so what needs to happen is you have to stand on your own contribution and your own history. You don't need to hearken to a people who are still suffering and fighting for equality and justice today in the country they built for 400 years. You have to be able to stand on your own contributions to this country, your own unique history, your own unique story. Right? Because they confuse the situation. You want to hearken to all of our history and trying to legitimize your right to be here. You should be able to be here because you're a human being, not because of your relationship to us.
and to make this a real to bring this up to just current history. Yesterday was National Freedom Day. National Freedom Day was founded by a man of African chattel slavery, right? And it was to commemorate the day that the slaves were freed on February 1st, 1865. Okay, so you go look at the State Department and they had a banner or what have you, basically saying a happy Freedom's Day. We must stop against trafficking, global trafficking in the world, right? They link these two things now, and this is how you get the disorientation or the separation from those who it was meant to be and what was meant to be about. Now it went from, instead of being like celebration of the freedom of Black people due to slavery and so on and so forth. Now this is being, taken about global and human trafficking, which are two different things. But they link it like, like to say human trafficking and what happened in chattel slavery over 265 years are exactly the same thing. They're not. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens when you don't stand up and say like, hey, look, no, human trafficking is one thing, and it's bad and it needs to be addressed and no one wants to see it happen, but you can't, co-opt, what I'm saying? What was meant for Americans, descendants of the freedmen.
Right. They can't. They stealing that. They stealing that energy, man. That's all it is. And they redirect. And we've seen that even in downtown Detroit this past summer, back a year ago almost, in the summer of 2020, when Detroit Will Breathe was holding these little like kumbaya pep rallies across from the police station or at the little plaza near the Detroit Public Safety Headquarters. And what would happen is people would come in this spirit of Black Lives Matter and the police brutality. But what would happen is you get folks that were they could be Black or they could be white or whatever. They pop up on this stage and start talking about everything from ICE to immigration to everything else they have to say, including like real Trump, anti-Trump stuff. Like, yeah, Trump is bad and yeah, immigration reform is necessary, but that's not what this show is. And you came down here to hop on this energy and use this momentum to get your message out. And I don't know that you're really trying to do what we're trying to do.
Right.
You just
Using
hear
George
get
Floyd to
noise.
peddle your agendas. I don't
Yep.
even know how
Right.
George Floyd and immigration tie. So
Right.
that's
All
the
right.
whole thing. But let's
We gotta keep it pushing.
let's keep it moving along in our
All
show
right.
run today.
So, Gerard, I think we got to pop over to this local stuff. We're going to have to come back if we get time later to talk about, if we need to, the Malcolm X stuff that was related to SB 1034. And also we can show that contact list again. But there will be links in the description of our video on YouTube and Facebook to that script that Stedman just showed. And everybody can get on that right away because we really need to correct this before it gets out of hand and gets passed, just like, other bills that people don't even be knowing about that are going to be detrimental to the descendants of freedmen having the justice claim that they have been fighting for since MLK's passing. So, Gerard, what we talking about? What we gonna talk about Kwame though?
Oh man, so
man?
Yeah, we got a lot of news, man. Our mayor, our quote unquote hip hop mayor, as he once was called or what have you. He's out, man. You know what I mean? Trump let him out, man. Him, Kodak Black, and Little Weezy.
The Weezy wasn't locked up though, was he? I don't know. Okay.
No, but he was gonna be though. He's facing 10 years.
It was, Trump being Trump, bro. He just confounds you. It don't make any sense whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? They let Kwame and those other two rappers out. You know what I'm saying? Which makes you think like, okay, Baby Wayne was doing something. Baby Wayne had this in the books when he was showing up doing election time with Trump, taking pictures. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, this has been this actually happened. It was a couple of false alarms, that happened last year, and I believe maybe even a couple of years prior. There was rumors that Kwame was going to be set free, but then you didn't it just went in thin air. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing happened.
Right, exactly. But the last waning hours of President Trump's administration, going down in flames, he decided to give these pardons out amongst many that he gave. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of like some of us may not really know who Kwame is. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I was gone from the city, man. Basically damn near all his whole administration. I joined the service right out of high school, so I was out of state from 97 till 2013. 2013 was the year I came back, and this is towards the end of his administration. I mean, actually, his administration ended in 2008. But anyway, man, we're just gonna roll it real quick. So just like what was the deal? We know that Kwame went to jail, but like, how did it happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do people have so much venom for him, and so on and so forth, man? And so, I went to, did some investigation about Kwame, man. So, Kwame was born in June 8th of 1970. He was born to Bernard Kilpatrick and Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, man. Both of his parents were in politics. Let's hit the next slide, man. Yeah, both of his parents were into politics, man, and they were part of Ed McNamara's, regime, dude.
Like McNamara Terminal at the airport, McNamara.
Exactly. Yeah, the McNamara Terminal, Delta One, that's at the airport, is named after him. And why? Because that was one of his crowning achievements was getting upgrades at the airport or what have you. He was a big wheeler dealer, man. So his father, Kwame's father, Bernard Kilpatrick, was his chief of staff. You know what I'm saying? Mike Duggan served in his administration under the county executive. So Ed McNamara was a county executive of Wayne County, and at the time, when Wayne County was like, freaking huge. You know what I'm saying? As far as money coming in. As far as population or what have you, it was a big time. So he was chief executive from 87 to 2002. Out of his administration, that's the airport that he did. Jennifer Granholm, Mayor Mike Duggan, obviously, and then he was very instrumental as well And like I said, and Kilpatrick's parents, going on into politics. His mother also was a state senator and then became a U.S. House representative in of the 13th district, right? So he comes from a pedigree of people that are connected. Go ahead, let's hit the next 2 slides down. Yeah. So with that being said, coming from that pedigree, McNamara, he was a wheeler and dealer himself. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of his administration, he freaking FBI agents and state police raided his office in November 2002, seeking evidence for federal grand jury investigation, alleged corruption in airport contracts, and campaign fundraising by his administration. McNamara was never charged. Never charged. And this also haunted Jennifer Granholm's administration as well, because I believe she was his chief of staff as well. So this you would see there's a line, there's a thorough line of allegations, you know what I'm saying, that occurred or what have you. So let's move on, man, to Kwame. Okay. And so, like I said, he comes from a family and power structure that's connected. That's what kind of like got him into, was able to propel him so fast into politics. He was a Michigan State representative in '96.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he was a Michigan House representative in '96 after his mother vacated the spot. You know what I mean? So he got the position that his mother held. So you got name recognition right there. There was already a Kilpatrick there. You know what I'm saying? And this is things that we see all throughout politics with the Kennedys, with the Bushes, you know what I'm saying, the Clintons. It's all this willing and dealing backroom, type of thing. Who is not so much about what you know, it's about who you know, right? Which is way different level of scale. And this is how it's been. This is how politics has been running for as long as politics have been running. You know what I'm saying? Honestly. And it's a point to why I'm bringing all of that. So once his mother left to go for that, to get the congressional seat, that 13th House district seat or what have you, he assumed that. And then he was there for a period of time. And while he was in the Michigan State House, he was the minority floor leader for the Michigan Democratic Party, serving the position from 1998 to 2000. He was also elected the House Minority Leader in 2001, the first African American to hold that position in Michigan politics or in history, right? So once he had that cachet, a little bit of experience or what have you, being in the Michigan State House, right? Then he parlayed that into 2001, where he got elected. He was the youngest mayor, I believe, ever elected to be of the city of Detroit at the age of 31. And it was a lot of hope and a lot of things were going good, man, or what have you. But this was the main scandal that really opened up. It was like one of the things that opened up everything else, man. The Manoogian Mansion. So allegedly there was a party that happened at the Manoogian Mansion that had strippers at it, and one stripper by the name of street name, I guess, a dancer name, stage name of Strawberry, right? She was allegedly assaulted by Christine Beatty. I'm sorry, not Christine Beatty. I'm sorry, my bad. By the mayor's wife, whose name is what's her name? Carlita. I'm sorry, Carlita. So Carlita allegedly, again, this is alleged, right? Allegedly she was doing something too close to Kwame or something like that. They got into a physical altercation or what have you. And, allegedly she hit Miss, Tamara Green or whatever. And, that was that. She was escorted me and Strawberry or Miss Green. She was escorted from the premises, taken to receiving, so on and so forth, this and that. Later on, she would end up, found dead in a burnt car. You know what I mean? And so there was allegations and rumors that Kwame's bodyguards and associates or what have you was, and the police were actually did the actual hit on this woman from keeping, quote unquote, the story out about what happened between him and his wife. This is Carlita Kilpatrick, a picture of her. All right. So what that ultimately ended up doing, there was investigation was done, and it was thought to be that the police actually was associated with the killing or what have you. And so two officers were caught up in, I guess, in doing the investigation, and they were fired early. Okay, they were fired, and they believed it was in retaliation to their investigation into this quote unquote murder, right?
What?
Go
so
ahead, brother.
You can fire cops, because I always hear you can't fire them because the union too strong. You can fire.
Oh, yeah, they got fired.
Oh, okay.
They got fired. All right, they got let go. And it was a big to do. So ultimately, what they ended up was Harold Neilthrop, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, and Deputy Police Chief Gary Brown. They in 2003 they filed a civil lawsuit against Kilpatrick. The officers claimed they were fired because of internal probe into the mayor's personal actions, and that the firing was a violation of the whistleblower law. Right. So they sued the mayor and administration. Okay. And then they ended up getting awarded $6.5 million, right, in the suit. Okay. Now the problem, this is where the problem ends up happening. So it kept on cascading. So part of the 6.5 million suit, the city had to go along with it, right? So the city council had to sign off on it. But what they did not know was that there was an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, between the mayor and the plaintiffs, right? That, because in their investigation of them, doing this whistleblower lawsuit and everything, as they were, litigating for it, they were able to get information of public records between what was going on between Christine Beatty and Kwame Kilpatrick. I believe we got a photo of them as well. So this is Christine Beatty. This is why I messed up the name earlier. Christine Beatty was Kwame Kilpatrick's chief of staff. It's something about these chiefs of staff, man. But anyway, they were old high school buddies. They knew each other from Cass Tech. So, they both were technicians.
Cass Tech.
Yeah, they were Cass Tech technicians. Yeah, exactly. So they known each other from high school or what have you. And so, they were business. They obviously worked in a professional context, where they also were doing stuff in a non-professional context, which they did not want to be, let out, right? And so basically they were having an affair. You know what I mean? And so the evidence of that was in this lawsuit. So they had to freaking that. So part of them getting the lawsuit, or part of them pleading out, I guess, or settling for the lawsuit. All of the plaintiffs who brought the lawsuit had an NDA stating that, hey, you can't bring none of this up. If you did, then you have to pay back your portion of the money, right? Later on, that will end up, the city didn't know this though. See, the Kwame never disclosed this. The mayor's administration never disclosed this to the city, behind this. And then later on, this will be let out or what have you. So once that was let out, then he was slapped with perjury charges. Ken Worthy and them, slapped these perjury charges on him. You know what I'm saying? It was the first time that this ever had happened. You know what I mean? Why do
you think Kim did that? Do you think she, Kim's controversial to a bit. Why do you think she did that though?
It's just all politics, man. It's all politics, dude. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, ultimately, the city council wanted him to step down. There was, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. There's a lot of intricate details and all of that, and which you could all look up. You know what I mean? Because once this occurred, once the city found out that he had lied about this, you know what I mean? It was an effort actually to prevent it from coming out. You know what I'm saying? That was one. So the city's lawyers So his lawyers were fighting. We're talking about the administration lawyers were fighting to try to prevent this from even coming out at all because obviously they didn't want all of the sexting and all of that type of stuff that was happening between them or whatever. And they were trying to keep it under wraps under a technicality, saying that these phones weren't government phones, these were like lease phones or something. The government this wasn't phones that the government, it wasn't the phones that the city owned. They leased these phones, so then those communications shouldn't be you shouldn't be able to get a FOIA request because the Free Press, you know what I'm saying, all of the city council, all of them. There was various different entities that got a FOIA and it went all the way up to I want to say the Supreme Court, the Michigan Supreme Court, to actually release the context of the communications. And once that was released, boom, it was gangbusters at that. You know what I'm saying? So there was some political gain, I guess, on Ken Worthy's part or anybody's part. There was calls for him to resign. It was, the governor, Jennifer Granholm. Well, it was called for the council. The council wanted the governor to replace him. It was all types of stuff, you know what I mean, going on. Yeah. So as a result of that happened. He ended up getting convicted of those charges. Those were state charges, right? You know what I'm saying? But because of all of that opened them up to the feds. And when the feds came in, you know what happened. You know what I'm saying? So he ended up getting convicted of so many different charges. I don't know. I think it was like 13 or so. It was the first time he was charged. It was a very unique way that he was prosecuted by the U.S. District Attorney. Was that they stated that he was running the mayor's him as a mayor, he was running the mayor's office like a mob, like the mob or mob gang affiliation or
came out of the RICO.
Like so, yeah, they hit him with RICO. You know what I mean? And a bunch of people. So ultimately, it was bribes. He was doing favors for people, getting kickbacks, things of that nature. And so I brought all that up about Ed McNamara, his dad being the chief of staff. There's being questions with Ed McNamara, you know what I mean? He learned, they learned all of the skullduggery of the inside pork and everything, and that happens at these county seats, man. The corruption. Like this wasn't nothing new. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing new, but I guess because of who he was, the high profileness of who he was. And then he was getting into a lot of altercations, and also the press was on his butt. You know what I'm saying? It just made it just much more just out there. You know what I mean? Maybe if he had been much more quiet, then might have not have gotten much press. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? But also I believe race was involved as well, because like I said, Mike Duggan, our current mayor, is also from that school of thought, that gang, that coaching tree, that political coaching tree as well. So
and he got that corruption with the when they took the grants for demolishing the houses and paid all that money and the houses didn't get torn down. So
yeah, the FBI was brought into that as well. You know what I'm saying? So this he was not unique in any of this, but the amount of time that he got was hella unique. You know what I mean? 28 years in prison, like that was like unheard of. You know what I'm saying?
So what's going on with him now?
So he got released, man. He's back in the scene. Let's go to our next slide, man. So, man, Kilpatrick Kwame has always got some controversy going on, man. So the owner of a local radio station, 910 AM, and also the Word Network, I guess offered him a job to be a host, either a morning show host of his radio station or afternoon host. And I guess he was taking too long to come around. Maybe the negotiations were right. So Kevin Adele, who owns 910 AM, has said, no one's going to breathe your name in this town. You know what I'm saying? No, he's told all of there's a no Kwame Kilpatrick freaking rule at 9:10 a.m. You know what I mean? So already hot out the box, man. We got something going on with Kwame. Also, there's been some sightings of Kwame as well. Let's see our next one, brother. So yeah, so you can see, man, he's back in the D, man. People been spotting him, man. He's getting his cut, looking good. You know what I'm saying? But about to keep popping. You know what I mean? So I brought all this up to say, you know what I'm saying? Like Kilpatrick, due to he had his sentence commuted, he wasn't pardoned. So a pardon basically like strips you and says, you got a clean bill of health as far as a record.
Cleans your record, wipes it off.
Right, he still has his record. He's still convicted of those federal charges or what have you. And from I believe state law, something I read, he's not eligible to run for any type of political office in Michigan until 2033.
If he got pardoned, do you think he would run again?
Man, I think he might.
Duggan thinks he's good people. Current mayor Duggan thinks he's good people.
The city still love him, man. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. And I believe he definitely will have influence. I mean, and there's another thing too, that guys, this is an election year for the mayor of Detroit. And so, Duggan has already announced that he's going to run for his third term, as well as some other people we're going to talk about. And you believe me, Duggan was Duggan definitely wants to be on his good side. And what I think was going to happen is going to be who's going to get his endorsement, because I believe his endorsement is going to be very influential in the city. You know what I'm saying? Being that he can't run himself, right? Whoever he endorses will put a lot of wind behind their sails and running. Now, Mayor Mike Duggan in his past two administrations has been very controversial in the city of Detroit. It's been the tale of two cities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The whole thing of the black politics of the city needs to hold that seat. That's out there as well. Will Kwame court him? I'm sure he was going to try to probably court Kwame because he was also very influential in trying to get him released from prison early. So I'm sure he's going to be
Duggan?
something from that. Yeah, Mike Duggan definitely was part of that. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if people knew that Duggan was jockeying for Kwame back in the day.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, Kwame is a person of great talent who still has much to contribute. Notice he's not going to say anything negative about him because, like I said, Duggan is connected to the Kilpatricks through McNamara.
It's all the same crew,
right? It's all exactly. Ultimately, but at the end of the day, it's going to be who's he going to blast off with? Okay, so his deputy chief of staff, deputy mayor during the Kwame Kilpatrick's administration, he has put his name into the ring. Anthony Adams, yep, and he's making his bid. He was the former deputy mayor or what have you.
Looking clean with them glasses.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So his connection and ties as being actually in Kilpatrick's administration is going to hold a lot of weight with Detroiters, especially those who are disenfranchised with Mayor Mike Duggan. You know what I mean? And those who want to see a black person in that seat. You know what I mean? And those who feel, that about having somebody in that seat will actually do something for the neighborhoods. That's one of the things that has been, like Detroit has been a tale of two cities. You have downtown and midtown that's seen a lot of investment, a lot of corporate investment, so on and so forth, all along Cass Woodward and the Cass corridor. But when you go out to the outside cities, we don't, outside neighborhoods, that we haven't seen that. And it's been a kind of a tale of we're recovering while most of the people who live in Detroit are in poverty or
right.
on a medium of $30,000 US. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about
right. We got to remember that Detroit had a history of mayors that were black. And that history has been linked to, in the minds of the citizens, a lot of progress and let me put it this way. If it's not progress, it's leverage and access. Right. Because you didn't feel alienated like people started to feel under Duggan. Now, under Duggan, that's when the 7.2 of Midtown and downtown basically started getting the development. That's when you started to have the rise of Quicken Loans and what's my man's name? The new landlord of Detroit. What's my man's name again?
Dan Gilbert. Yeah, Dan Gilbert, Mike Village. Mike Village and crew, Dan Gilbert, right.
Yeah, so you start to see them creep in big time under Duggan. And so this is the situation where you have that tale of two cities, and he's pretty much to blame for that or to thank for it because you got the influx of all these these new people who are jumping in this city like it's the new Brooklyn, right?
Right.
So, well, that's not the only person though, right?
Yeah, I think yes, Sharon McPhail. She's a top lawyer and former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick's administration as well. So she's contemplating for another bid, right? Because I guess she ran before. So here we got two people who were part of Kilpatrick's administration. You know, what I mean? And there's going to be a nostalgia of, you know, hey, Kwame.
Oh, good old times.
Right, the good old times, exactly. You know what I mean? So it's going to be quite interesting. We at the Freedmen's Collective are definitely going to be on top of it as far as, you know, watching those in this race coming up. The primaries, I believe, will be in August. I mean, that's ultimately will be the real, whoever wins the primary is going to be the one who becomes the mayor, because, you know, this is a Democratic city. There's no Republicans really. You know, in the general, that has a chance of winning in Detroit. So the primary really is the main election. So that, you know, that it'll be quite interesting to see. You know, there's going to be a lot of things to cover and get pretty exciting as the year goes on. So yeah, that's my topic, man. That's what I had. You know, as far as Detroit politics, you know, Kwame's out.
It's a little crazy right now. So I'm really looking forward to this year, right? Like, this is going to be really interesting for Detroit. You know, and I'll harken back to this. Anybody go run around on my older or on my political YouTube page, which I no longer stream this show to. But if you go on there and you look, you'll see there was a video that I released that was actually based on a post from New Era Detroit back in, what was the last run? What, 2007? No, 2017? Was that it?
2017, yep.
Yeah, basically, you know what it was pinned around? That race went to Duggan because they felt that a lot of people didn't show up to the polls. So now we got to ask ourselves the question, given what we just went through for the presidential race, are we going to see those levels of voting come out for the mayoral race this year, right? Because everybody wants to get Trump out, but do they want to get Duggan out?
I feel that if you get Kwame out there, it could. If he backs somebody, like, you know, he really backs someone, you could see that.
Still got a lot of political leverage on.
Right. Yeah. Because now Kwame's out, that's going to change a lot. You know, people are going to be feeling like, hey, we need to take the city back.
And I hope they do.
Kwame's like Detroit's Marion Barry, man. Marion Barry got reelected after that crack and the prostitute thing. He got reelected.
Yeah.
So, and he was like on council. Like, he was like, they called him like the mayor for life. So, I mean, hey, I'm with it.
Sorry. So, cool, man. No, that was really good. We do need to keep it pushing, though, because we got a lot of stuff we're going to hit tonight. I think Ernest, though, is going to jump into something that's more of our core topic for today. Yep. We're going to shift our focus to the national spotlight. What's going on the national level, Ernest?
Yeah, so like, you know, shout outs to Gerard and Stedman for covering, you know, the local and state level, you know, policies that we're seeing, you know, I guess, Gerard, your segment was more so the, you know, the future state of black politics in Detroit on a local level. And then Stedman, you know, covering the statewide bill, Senate Bill 1034. You know, for this topic, we want to talk about Biden's first 100 days and, you know, basically his priorities. So like, I know a lot of you guys are familiar with the president's first 100 days, which just is an outline of what we can expect in the next 4 years. And so what we've seen from Biden throughout the gate is that he has reversed a lot of what they call Trump's controversial or divisive policies and stances on, you know, global warming, X, Y, and Z. But on another note, one thing that he has also, you know, took a step forward in is the immigration policies that he promised to specific sets of people. And so right now, what
I got up on the screen, all these different orders that Biden's already signed. But as you're talking about, you know, there's also the immigration thing, right? So let's look at that.
So So yeah, I found this article interesting, Darvell. Thank you for sharing it. But inside of there, you know, it's basically stating how Biden is pretty much setting up a plan or an agenda to legalize 11 million immigrants. One of my biggest issues with that is that he's pretty much deprioritizing a lot of black citizens and other citizens in America who deserve, I I would say, first dibs access to any opportunities in America just by way of us standing in that line for so long. So, with his plan, it's basically, if it works out, he would temporarily legalize, immigrants who, were undocumented in America, before January 1st, which is that last paragraph right there I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's saying, newly minted, lawfully prospective immigrants, they would be authorized to work, join the military, and travel without fear of deportation. The first thing that they would be authorized to do is work. And so we live in a capitalistic society, guys. So if y'all being realistic, we know that there's limited job opportunities. I'm pretty sure you guys all apply for a position you wanted. And, you've probably gotten that response that said we've had a number of qualified candidates, and as such, we're not moving forward with you. That's just to show that there's a limitation in America's job markets. And if you're going to bring in an influx of workers, you're ultimately going to do one thing to a certain set of people who are the working class, which is limit their opportunities. So, going along with that, let's see. One of the unique things that they mentioned was like how it's the boldest immigration agenda, in any administration. Reagan's was only like for, his immigration act allowed 3 million folks in the country, whereas Biden's is looking to elect 11 million in. One interesting thing about that 3 million is that, later in this article, it mentions that, that same 3 million was able to basically, they basically birthed, it's basically 60% have resided in the country for more than a decade. And you see that last paragraph right there, Darville? It says more than 60%. Nope, you just passed it. Just a little, yep, right there. Yep. And they have, so it's basically saying more than 60% have resided in the country for more than a decade, and they have more than 4 million U.S. born children. So that 3 million created 4 million. That's 7 million folks now in this one ethnic group that demands more political leverage or power just by basis of, their population. And so I'm bringing that up to state that if you're letting 11 million people in, think about the future outlook where they do have children and they're creating a powerful bastion in America. It basically will shift the demographics and give a certain group leverage when it comes to defining what American politics looks like. And so for me personally, one of my issues with immigration is that, like I said earlier, it deprioritizes those who have already stood in the line to wait, for X, Y, what I'm saying, for X amount of years. And so, at this point, if you're going to let folks in this country and allow them to skip the line while we still have homeless Americans facing eviction moratoriums and all of these things, then you really don't care about the future of Americans. I'll say true Americans, because if you're not a citizen yet, then you're not an American. And that's the brutal reality of it. And so, just
to be devil's advocate, Ernest, what I'm saying? Just to be devil's advocate, dude. Yeah. They're not, allowing anybody in. These 11 million are already here.
Right.
So the question would be then, once they become legal, those who were working under the books, or what I'm saying, now they have to be, on the same page or with everybody else. So what it could do then, they can't be exploited for lower labor. You have to pay them just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I believe this issue has never really ever budged in reality in this country, because the reason why they're here is because there's work for them to do. And that work is, for them to be paid like the lowest amount of money possible. That's why we're able to buy, bananas at cheap prices, grapes at orange at cheap prices, because we have this, damn near slave labor. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Almost slave labor, right? You know what I mean? You notice that, they don't. Where do they go get them when they do want to round them up? They go to their job place. They know where they're at.
I mean, and even to that point where if you bringing up like the slave labor aspect,
right?
We could just remind our viewers in prior videos, we've already kind of touched upon the aspect of how immigration at large has always harmed, American descendants of freedmen. And so if you're really looking at our past, you would see that, even during slavery, when we weren't counted as citizens, our cheap labor was used to help, the American economy, rocket, you know what I'm saying, take off, basically.
You're talking about sharecropping,
yeah. So
sharecropping and every other.
But when we're talking about how immigration has harmed us, we could look at white immigrants and see that the prioritization that America gave to European immigrants was higher than it had for, even Black Americans who were born that were not in bondage or not enslaved. And as such, they were able to prioritize those folks over us. And as you've seen, we were the only group remaining at the bottom as everybody else came in. So like Darvell, if I could share my screen with you real quick.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Stem. You can jump in. I'm just going to share my screen.
So I actually got an article from Notre Dame Law School, and the article is called Neoliberal Immigration and the Impact on African Americans. And it deals with this situation that we're talking about. I really, it's in there, so hopefully it'll be in the description box. People can read it. But it really looks at neoliberal policies, which is, neoliberal, of free labor, open borders, all this kind of talk, and how the left neglects the impact of immigration on African Americans. African Americans, as in the people who descended from chattel slavery, ADOF, so descendants of freedom, and looking at how, like what you're saying, historically, white immigrants have been prioritized over Black former, or at the time enslaved people, or recently freed from slavery, freedmen. And it's been an issue where post 1965, what you've seen is more immigrants of color, meaning from Asia, from Africa, from the Caribbean, South America. After the quotas were lifted because of the civil rights movement, even immigrants of color have been weaponized by the system of white supremacy to disenfranchise ADOF people, descendants of freedmen. It's a book I got, America While Black.
So if you guys looking at the screen, right? This chart is, what the census calls us, and it's basically, data put together by Pew's Research, research.org. So you guys can look this up, what the census calls us, Pew Research, if you wanted to view it. But if we're looking at, America started in 1776, and they didn't start taking the first census until 1790, what we're seeing here is that there was only, a certain set of folks who were here, and it's basically all white folks, all other free persons, and then slaves, right? And so as we're going through this timeline, you will see that there isn't even a need to signify who's in what ethnic group or whatnot, because it just doesn't exist in America, and as such, the only folks who count are the folks who are here. And so with that, with that being said, we could make the case of how America used cheap labor and even capitalized on slavery just by the 3/5 compromise, which gave a certain political party way more leverage than it needed. And it basically allowed them to shape the American landscape. That's the same exact parallel to what's going to happen if one party can capitalize off of immigration and pretty much, increase the powers of their party and their dominance in each statewide election or federal election. It will basically create this situation where Democrats can run the country and form it to their needs, which was kind of what the states did for the South, right? But if we go through this thing, we only see our folks, which is the American descendants of freedmen, free colored males and females or slaves, and free whites. Eventually, in these census, it starts to include other groups. Like we, of course, know the Native Americans or the indigenous tribes have already been in this country. But as we go through, you see in 1870, the Chinese starts to pick up a population here in America. And, as we go throughout this list, you see that, there's rarely anyone here besides Black, white, mulatto, Indian, and Chinese. But like Stedman said, post 1965, there's an influx of other immigrants who have been, like when America lifted the ban to say not just Europe, they allowed a lot of other folks to come in. And with that, we've seen a deprioritization of the Negro, and then an uplifting of these groups to allow them to get into these opportunities that were denied to our people or to our ancestry. And so, looking at 2020. And this goes back to Senate Bill 1034, but if we're looking at 2020, right, Black people are lumped together in this lump sum, just Black or African American. But inside of here, it says, for example, asked to write more about their origins. For example, African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian. So in this instance, you see how African American is supposed to be like the marker for our ethnic group. but in reality, it's also referred to as a race, which is what causes all of this confusion. But if we're looking down at the Asian population, is clearly broken out by ethnic group for a reason, because all of these folks have different priorities and needs, and that's what they're demanding. And the same with the Hispanic population. Obviously, they break out Mexican from Puerto Rican, and what is the cause for that? Why do they feel the need to do that? And so when we're looking at, Biden's plan in these first 100 days to legalize immigration, we need to understand that, I'm going to have to stop sharing. We need to understand that, we're at a pivotal moment where we could easily be left in the grass, meaning everyone else is going to take off, go to their next phase in American, in American times. And, their people will reap benefits based on the policies set in these current administrations. And so all of these undocumented immigrants that do want to come here, like you said, Gerard, though it's 11 million that's already here that aren't coming. They've been here, right? So if those 11 million were granted citizenships just from them sneaking into the country and being here, what's going to stop all other citizens from other countries who want that same exact opportunity? What's going to stop another caravan of folks coming to this country and demanding something when American citizens are basically suffering?
So let me say something on that before I show a video as well. Here's the key thing. Listen, though, I got this pulled up right now. Reversing Donald Trump policy, Joe Biden will include undocumented immigrants in critical census count, right? Here's the issue. We scroll down in this nice little article and read this. Trump's administration's protracted efforts to keep some immigrants from being counted when congressional seats are divvied up after the 2020 census has ended with the former president's departure. But now Joe Biden's administration will inherit a census that is running far behind schedule, as we know. Among his first acts after being inaugurated, Biden is expected to sign an executive order undoing his predecessor's plan to keep undocumented immigrants from being included in the state-by-state tallies that determine how those living in the U.S. are represented in Congress for the next 10 years. So, guys, correct me if what I'm about to say is wrong. Basically, we know the Senate has a fixed number of representatives in the Senate, or senators, for each state. Then we know that the reps in the House vary based on the population in each state. The problem here is this: when you start adding a bunch of undocumented people to the census and then use that census to drive representation, what you just did is you added political leverage in the U.S. Capitol for people who aren't even citizens. So what I could do is inject a bunch of people who have nothing to do with America into American soil, let them get counted. And then all of a sudden you've added more reps to states that have these people present in them. And then what are you thinking those reps are going to do? Those reps, ideally speaking, based on the idea that you do it proportional to the population, those reps are supposed to then cover in some reasonable spread all of those constituents' concerns. Here's the key thing. Those people are not constituents. They're not constituents. They're just people who got through the border. I'm not trying to say that people shouldn't immigrate to the U.S. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't have an immigration policy or that America isn't open. But America certainly shouldn't be using political power in Washington that affects citizens' taxes for people who don't actually even have to file a tax return, let alone who are being really tracked for income tax. Like she says in this article.
And access to public benefits.
Right.
But that's the key right there. Again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. The reason whether they're here illegally or not, they are unless we did a straight boycott, and that's what will have to happen. Unless we say, okay, if you're not here, you can't go to school, you can't use any public, resources, whatever. But that's not the case. And I believe that has been challenged in court. I think we have, so on and so forth. Like we can't deny, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your spectrum, right? These children, these kids, these people, they drain the resources. So in one aspect, I hear what you're saying, Darville, and I'm just like you're saying, I'm playing devil's advocate or whatever. I'm playing just the opposite side, so to counter, because there's going to be those who are going to say, hey,
right, yeah, no, that's fine.
The fund, so we need to have, we just can't say we only allocate for the citizens, because if they're taking dollars, you know what I mean, far as welfare or educational seats, whatever you name it, public resources, right?
They're using it.
Those resources need to be funded to the amount that's being used. So
and that's fine. You know what? And that's fine. You have a very good point. If we're going to provide the resources, we can use those. We need to allocate enough money to that state or that area to fund that resource, right?
Right.
If it's going to be provided to people who aren't citizens. But my key gripe has to do with the representation in the sense of the capital, because now because it fundamentally undercuts the whole premise of representation, right? Because if you are representing folks who basically they could be Canadians for all I'm concerned. I mean, I can show up, I can slide across the border and say I'm here and get counted, then go right back. I mean, for real, that's what they're doing because these people are undocumented. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
The Constitution calls for that, though, man. So, you know what I mean? Because you have legal resident aliens. You have people who do, you know what I'm saying, like who are legally here, who are not citizens. So a resident alien, you have the, you know what I'm saying, like my ex-wife, she's a resident alien. You know what I mean? She came here legally. You know what I'm saying? So that you're always going to have that situation where you're going to have, you know, people who are like not in a citizen status, and those who are, you know what I'm saying?
So Darvell, if you go back to that New York Times article that you had up, in there was a piece, right, that spoke to the Mexican American population, and it said how they're the largest group of the largest group of unauthorized immigrants is from Mexico. But what they found is that, you know, if they're able to survive this walk in the desert and cross these rivers, if they could make it to a land that's willing, and this is quoting the article, they can make it to a land that's willing to look past prior laws that prohibited hiring them and employing them in certain fields and areas in America. So basically what I'm saying is that in that article, it pretty much stated that those folks, they know that if they come here, they're going to get priority because they have absolutely nothing in the spotlight. Like you said, Gerard, so what are we going to say? No resources, no school, nothing for all the folks that are here. My only counter to that is, what about the Black American children and all of these other Americans who are suffering here? When we talk about Flint, that's no. I know you playing devil's advocate. So I ain't, you know, I'm just challenging that point to say, you know, go ahead, Stephen.
And see, that's the dynamic that really needs to be understood, is that as Black people, we tend to empathize with other oppressed people around the world. Because, I mean, to be truthful, a lot of the people who come from Mexico, from Central America, the caravan that's supposedly coming from Guatemala or whatever, their countries are destroyed and destabilized because of U.S. foreign policy. Right? That's the reason. And so that's why even that article, Neoliberal Immigration Policy and the Effect on African Americans, what he breaks down is that aspect. But he also talks about how the left, because they want to make everything a class issue on the left. You see that with Bernie Sanders. That was one of his big hangups, like one of the big knocks against him, that they completely disregard the racist aspect of the people who live here. And so it's not like we talked about with the bill earlier. It's not about me trying to delegitimize the claim of these individuals. None of us here are trying to delegitimize their human right to dignity, to respect, and to opportunity to live free and safe somewhere, because they can't live home because our government is destabilizing. I mean, going back, you know, if we got 46 presidents, 46 of them have destabilized, you know, the Monroe Doctrine, all that stuff. But you have to understand that immigration has a negative impact on the Black community. That's just the facts. That's the facts.
Right.
And if we can't acknowledge that, we're never going to get no better as a community. Because, like I said, with this book here, this book breaks down a lot of the interactions. She has a concept, because they'll say that, you know, some people might accuse us of being nativists. But what she says is that she calls it conflicted nativism. And this is idea, not that you're a nativist like white nativists, where you believe America should be white and everybody should speak English and have blue hair or blue eyes and blonde hair or whatever. But it's an idea that all we have is citizenship. We built this country for free, and I have to live on the margins of that country for 400 years. You know, where you have a person like James Baldwin said about Bobby Kennedy. He said, imagine how, I'm paraphrasing, how it feels to be here 400 years and then have a guy, Bobby Kennedy, whose grandfather came over here, and he tells you if you're a good Negro in 40 years, maybe you can be president. You know, how does that feel? And so that is what we're talking about. Even when you look at, I have in here. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let him. I think we got a caller on right now, right?
Yeah, we got a caller.
First caller. Oh man, that's what's up. We got somebody who tried.
Man. All right. Anyway, we're gonna bring our first caller in, calling from the 313. We're gonna bring in when you hear the tone telling you're in the room. Go on ahead. So I'm bringing them on in, and we're gonna see what's going on with this first caller. Please tell us where you are, where you're coming from, and what's your name. You know what I'm saying? Let us know what's going on with you. Let's see. Can you hear us?
I can't hear me.
Oh, look at there.
Yeah, it works.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you? Thanks for calling in.
Hi, guys. You guys, my name is Donita. I'm from Detroit. Actually, you got my cousin on your panel. Mr. Gerard.
Don't give me that. Come on now. We trying to. Come on, man.
We thankful you called in. Thanks, cuz. What do you catch any of what we've been talking about? Give us your opinion.
Oh yeah. I caught it. I was listening. You guys have a good panel with very good informative information. That last topic, your topic though, cuz you already know. I'm not a Kwame fan at all.
You're not a Kwame fan. Tell us why you're not a Kwame fan.
No, I've never been a Kwame fan. I thought he was too young in the beginning. Kwame is nothing but 3 years older than me. Not to say that, he couldn't have done a good job. I thought he kind of started off on a good foot, and then it went downhill, the corruption from there. And I do agree with you guys when you say, it's no different than what's always been there, the corruption. But he should have known better. All the eyes are on you. Of course, when you're Black, you have, even more hits against you. And he knew better. And we paid for his corruption. The city of Detroit paid for it at the time when I was a city of Detroit resident. And they're still paying for it somewhat. But as far as him, the time that he got, I thought that was a bit much, and I do believe I'm glad he's out. He needs to be out, but I still don't condone what he did, with the line and the corruption, and he was running it like he was running, the Black Mafia or something. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's what he got convicted of, cuz.
That's what he was doing.
Pretty much. Now, caller, I actually got a question for you. I was going to ask, we just covered a little bit on this immigration piece, and pretty much covered a little bit of Biden's first top priorities in his first 100 days. And so as a Black citizen here in America, what do you expect from Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, going forward in 2024, or at least in these first 100 days for our people specifically?
Well, the biggest issue, I know you covered the immigration, and you guys are, first of all, you gave me a new insight on that, about that bill, how we have to pay closer attention to the wording of these bills. When you guys pointed out about how it's specifically, it almost basically, there's a clause. They want us to miss that when it mentions the immigration of Caribbean Africans. Well, how many of those immigrants are here? And you said that's a low percentage. That doesn't apply to all of us. So that takes away from us as African Americans, period. So that alleviates us. That makes us obsolete to that bill immediately. And that's what they want to do. They want us to miss those things in those bills so we won't pay attention. So you made me more aware of what we need to pay attention to in these bills. As far as Biden and his administration, I'm looking for him to do just what he said, and I think we need to keep applying the pressure to our senators and our local senators and congressmen and congresswomen to put the pressure on Washington to make sure that they do what they say, mainly about this criminal injustice. This criminal injustice that needs to be addressed. He said he was going to address it, so I expect him to do so. But I know he can't do it all by himself either.
Yeah,
plugging into what you guys are telling us, the information. I mean, they all go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? Local can't do, state can't do anything without up top. You know what I'm saying? It all goes hand in glove together. But we as a people have to stay informed and then act on it. Starting right there, like I said, with that bill, you made me more aware. We have to pay attention as a people and keep the pressure on at all times. You know, we as people, Black people, we start off with all this momentum, you know, all this fire and let's go, let's get it. And then we lose steam if we don't see instant results. Well, you're not going to see instant results. The struggle is going to continue, period.
Yeah, we seen some of that last summer, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, first, cuz we need to he need to tell the truth that they need to pass the $2,000 checks.
Right.
They don't lie about that. Then now it's down to 1,400, and the Republicans talking about 1,000. So we need to be on them about that. That's the first thing they said, you know. So we're going to be talking about that later on in the show as well. So that's one thing that Biden hasn't come through with, that he's dropped the ball. You know, they did the damn thing down in Georgia and flipped that freaking Senate into blue, you know, with one person margin with the vice president. But nonetheless, they have all the power and ability through reconciliation to go ahead and get that $2,000 check that they promised, that they campaigned on, you know. And now, you know, he's weaseled his way out of that, and now it's $1,400 instead of it being a separate bill. He's throwing it into a stimulus package, which, you know, we're gonna cover all of that too, cuz. So, you know, I just think. Yeah, I feel like with Biden, you know my opinion about it. You know, you can't ask the person who caused the problem for the solution. You know, that's just my opinion. You know, he's giving us enough to show in his 40-something year record who he is and what he's going to do. And as you've seen with over 40-something executive orders, there's nothing that's been specifically just for Black people yet. You know, nothing on criminal reform. But, you know, we got this immigration, we got this and that, we got LGBT, you know.
They got the Asian. They got the Asian discrimination.
They will make sure that Asians are discriminated against because of the COVID-19. You know, we got all of that.
Keep talking about racial equity, but they ain't talking about
but then where's our racial equity? You know what I'm saying?
We can't fix no racial wealth gap. You can't fix the hood. None of that without reparations. You could try to, you know, de-escalate the Blue Lives Matter bill and, you know, remove blanket immunity, but that's not going to fix the court system or, you know, the reason why Black people have to commit poverty crimes. So, you know what I'm saying? Like you know, for me personally, I want to see that type of bold action from this administration. I mean, I probably might be reaching, but what's your thoughts on that, caller? Are you a believer in reparations for our people?
Well, when you say reparations, what do you mean reparations? I mean, for me, I just make it equal across the board. No, that's my stance on that.
So for me, reparations, what I mean by that is like reparations for the specific injustices done to Black people in America. And, you know, this not just, if you think of it in modern times, think about how Black people in Flint were impacted significantly more than other ethnic groups in that same exact city. And so when we're looking at it, you know, from another standpoint, when I talk about reparations, I'm saying, you know, reparations for slavery, Jim Crow, and then what happened after 1965 when we seen this pumping of drugs in our community and the taking away of jobs, which created the conditions that we live in today. So now we see disparities across the board, and they saying Blacks getting killed more by COVID. Why are they getting killed more from COVID? And the real reason is because we don't have health insurance. We can't afford it. 1, 2, we live in neighborhoods where we got to drink lead water. 3, the government don't give a shit about us. So we need something that can fix that and at the same time address all of those systems that's already in place that are cause of George Floyd, somebody get killed over a fake $20 bill. And, you know, and all these people running in the White House, you know what I'm saying? If it was us, we would have been killed. But if it was them, we seen what happened. Like, you know what I'm saying? So with
of
me,
course,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I agree with you guys. I agree.
yeah.
I agree
So
on
like,
that point. But what I'm saying is, if it's even across the board, my thing is, okay, if a George Floyd can be killed over a fake $20 bill, what about this? What about what now? So what are you gonna do with these white folks that's running up in the White House? Or period. Okay. Or if say I commit a crime, the same crime that I'm being convicted of, and I'm as punishable by law, then white man over here should get the same thing,
okay.
or I get what he gets. You understand
That's,
what I'm saying?
yeah, so you're saying equal justice across the board, like going forward, you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
not just
Yeah.
equal justice, everything. Okay, if
So
white
equal
man
wealth?
can get along
Yeah.
at 2%, then I should be able to get one at 2%. If he can
Yeah.
get an education, you know, for whatever at a certain level, then I should be able to get that as well if I earn it. You know what I'm saying? Don't
No,
make it to where you made it impossible for me. That's
yeah.
where I'm saying.
No, I agree with you
Equal
there, but then
justice
just to
across
ask
the
you a
board.
deeper question, then like, so what do you think we are owed for being set back? Like, so if we're thinking about all of this like a race, black people wasn't even allowed to vote until 1965. So that's like voting in peace or even being able to fully do it. That was just like 70 to 60 years ago. So when we're talking about having equality across the board, we got some catching up to do, because it's like, when you think about what it means to be a white American and what it means to be a black American, you're going to really notice that it's all about class. Even if you're the poorest white, you live a significantly better life than the poorest black. And that's the reality of, if we want to make that thing equal across the board, then they got to boost us up and then make it even a little bit later. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Yes, that's why we got to have, but that's where we start at, right? I mean, educational wise, that all of that goes hand in glove together. We are owed a hell of a lot. We're owed more than any race to me in this country. This country was built on our ancestors' back. I believe that wholeheartedly. But just to think that, I mean, how do you think we're going to get it? We still got to be good at place to get it. You know, there has to be men and women of color put in certain positions to get to that point.
And that's where reparations come into play. Because that's where reparations come into play. There needs to be a concerted effort to do that, and with a concerted willpower, a political willpower, and the money and budget to do so. We can't just depend on on the private sector to do that. You know, because we've seen what has happened when we've done that. When, you know, they'll put person over from Cameroon that came over that's a doctor. You know, hey, we got diversity. You know what I mean? We reached the diversity. We need to have much more specificity and how we go about it and everything. What I say when I say reparations, when I think of reparations, we need to have a bringing back of the Freedmen's Bureau. You know, it doesn't have to be called that, but we need to bring back a federal agency that is in charge with remedying what the problems that are happening to the black people, with a budget and a cabinet level director. That's what I say. You know what I mean?
I think that's so. Just to be clear about reparations, and we're going to wrap this call up. Really appreciate you calling in, but to really be clear about reparations, any reparations plan that has a multifaceted rollout that includes generational progress and processes and programs, multi-generational programs, as well as, of course, like you said, a bureau to administer it all, including a proper acknowledgement and a formal apology on behalf of the entire federal government through the president's mouth, not just some order done by the House of Representatives or just done by the Senate. It's a real deal, full-fledged, end-to-end thing. So any proper reparations bill, even if we get HR 40 passed and the commission comes together and makes a new bill, that bill is going to be long, it's going to be thorough, it's going to be deep. And it is not just handing out checks. For anybody who's listening, we're talking about reparations. It is never just a check, and it's not just one check to any given person for the money that is given out as pure cash. So it's a long game. It's as long. Listen, you do a wound to us, it takes longer to heal it than you to inflict it, right? So you stabbing us, I'm going to have to take months to heal that wound, and I'm still going to have a scar. And if you think about any of the bad things that have been done to us from emancipation onward, not even counting slavery, everything that Ernest touched on, from mass incarceration, redlining, denial of jobs, exclusion economically, the burning down of our various towns and business districts, all that stuff that went unaddressed, there is an accrued accounting of money that is owed to us, of financial, of recompense and compensation that has been denied for many, many years, that's been accruing in interest because the cost of living goes up. And so in order to, the cost of money going up, in order to reimburse us for that, so that we can close the racial wealth gap, which is exactly where it was created from, all those different programs that were used to harm us, created the racial wealth gap. In order to close the racial wealth gap, this is a long game and it's got a lot of different elements to it. But listen, really appreciate you calling in. I hope you call in again soon.
Yeah, definitely call in again.
Thank you.
We got
so
some
much.
more discussion here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cuzzo.
And, again, like everybody who might be watching, please call in. We are on the line here, just doing the thing. So one thing I wanted to show before we jump off of this topic, I know we got to get to your mans and them, but there's a very important video that I think people need to see in order to register how serious this is about this immigration thing, because I think that sometimes we think it's just nothing and it's not going to affect us, but you got to realize what this really means to some people. Let me do that again.
So give us some context about what they finna see,
Oh, you want to go ahead and do that? Tell them what is this?
So yeah, basically with Biden's new, when Biden even took office, there were caravans of immigrants coming to America because they realized that the Democrats aren't going to pass some sort of legislation for immigrants that are currently here or for those that want to come here. And so what we see here is, a lot of human beings who want an opportunity in a place that's stable for their people and their family and their children. And so what you're going to hear in this little clip is, this guy, saying what he expects of the Biden administration, the non-citizen saying what he expects of the American president for his group, and while at the same time, he's not even mentioning any of the plights of Americans. He might say their people need opportunities or that they need it. But if you think about this, so do all of these Black Americans and other, ethnic groups who live here who are struggling and need relief from the government. So it's not just them, it's a lot of other folks involved. So go ahead, give it a rip, Darville. You muted, Darville.
What do you want for your people?
I'll be honest, I'm here today because in my country, with the hurricane that we had, it's kind of terrible. And we got a president that is not helping the population, and we're in a bad situation. I'm coming from way, way far away from Roatan. And
Where is your family?
My family, I left them home. I know they kind of worried because I don't have no internet so that they can check me and see how we're doing. And I'm here today because I'm dreaming to get to the U.S.
What is happening now with the pandemic?
Well, the pandemic, it's messed us up a lot. I used to work tour guide, tourism, and we on the island, we're not receiving no tourism because
from Roatan.
I'm from Roatan. Born and raised, islander, and that's where I will live.
What do you want for your people?
What I want for my people, I just want patience and peace that we can get to the U.S. because they're having a new president, versus Biden. He's going to help all of us. He's given us 100 days to get to the U.S. and give us legal mental paper so we can get a better life for our kids and family.
So that's what you're dealing with. They don't give a fuck about none of us here, So why should I be prioritizing anything? Like exactly like he said, everything I'm doing and I'm focused on just my family. So we got another caller on there. What you think about
thanks, caller. What's up? Darville, you muted. Darville, you're muted, sir.
Yeah, you muted, Darville.
You muted, Darville.
He ain't muted. It must be something with his sound because he don't have a mute button here.
Must be the sound.
You don't hear the guest either.
Yeah.
He probably was talking to the guest. Nope.
Can't
hear you.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
Yeah,
guys, we'll be right back.
It's that.
Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
that Adolf life. It's that Adolf life. We don't have access to the best equipment and the best internet and the best. America got the worst internet in the world. We got a lower internet connection than like Thailand. So it is what it is. We working. We gonna make it. If y'all continue to like and share and subscribe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we live in communities. They don't feel like they want to bring us the fiber internet. You know what I'm saying? They're like,
yeah, man.
Yeah, they gonna run the lines to our communities. But they're like, they can't afford it. I think Darvell.
Hey, so what you guys think about that last caller though? That guy who just called in. I mean, not the guy who just called in. The video we just watched.
The video we just watched, man. I mean, it's funny because he was able. Hey, look, I get it, man. You know what I'm saying? As far as them wanting to come here or what have you, or whatever. But we're hurting too. You're what's the saying? You're in the pan jumping into the fire. I believe that,
out of the frying pan into the fire. Yeah,
out of the frying pan into the fire, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, bruh, it's about to get really bad in this country. Real
pandemic right now. You know what I'm saying? Still,
exactly. Like people like him. He said he worked at a resort, so more likely than not, you know what I'm saying? That's that's hospitality. There's no hospitality happening here in this. You know what I'm saying? In the U.S. You know what I mean? Right now, it's going to take months and months and months for that. You know what I'm saying? To recover. And so now you know what I mean? You think that those who work in hospitality, you know what I mean? They're already getting, being paid menial labor as it is. You know what I'm saying? You think they're going to be wanting to, compete with him for a spot which he's more than likely willing to, go under the table to get paid less. Because he's desperate, because he's in the situation that he's in. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make any sense. But the crazy part of all of this was of that video was that he was already tuned in to Biden 100 days.
Now
you got a guy who was a non-citizen who has a 100-day expectation from the U.S. president. And you have black people who don't even have that level of interest or investment in the political process.
Right. We'll see.
You guys got me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we got you.
My big apologies to all the people watching. My new wireless mic, it actually died. We've been rocking so hard. We've been on. Listen, we've been preparing before this show even came on. We'd be on an hour before you even know we're online. So I've been burning batteries. My bad. All right. So
yes or no?
We lost our caller. I apologize. I know she called in and wasn't switching her over to the room. I don't know what was going on. So I really apologize. Call back in. I'll look for your name and I will bring you straight in. But let's move it on. We got to keep it pushing. Y'all seen our man's there. That's what we're up against. The caravan headed to America. Again, I guess my point is just this. I know we got to provide resources to people who are physically in the country, but the proportion of the legislative power being distorted, the proportion of the legislative power being distorted by folks who are not actually even residents, who just hopped over the fence, that I want to have a discussion about, because I'm not saying that they don't deserve to have certain things, but that doesn't mean you get to rewrite the law.
Mm-hmm. In that article you shared, Darvell, from 2005 to 2015, immigrants accounted for half of the growth in the working age population. So that means that if there was already 100 million folks working, if we got another 50 million, 25 million are immigrants. So that's what that data means. So
that's heavy.
That's deep.
And keep in mind that the Black American population has almost, as a rule, an employment rate that's double the national average. Right. So I mean, just like you look at, like, if a person had a pet or a child that they couldn't take care of, you wouldn't want them to get another pet or child. And so you have citizens in this country that you are literally not capable of taking care of,
or don't have the willpower
efficiently.
So that's hold that right there. Yeah. You know why that's critical? Because not even just that mentality you just spoke on right there is very powerful. Not even immigrants currently in this country realize or care. People who are like naturalized, who are championing immigration reform to get more people into the country easier, they don't care that America has not even taken care of its original debts to people who they used to build this country for free and are using as the bottom of the shoes to continue to propel this country. And they're now bringing in immigrants to use them as the bottom of the shoes for less money. For like, we didn't pay the black people to do this stuff.
Neglect.
What?
Blatant neglect. You know?
Right.
You said it. Anybody could be a tool of white supremacy.
Right. And that's the part about it. You know, you can be a tool without even having the intentionality of it. Right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The hammer don't tell me, hey, pick me up. You know what I'm saying? You're a tool, whether you say so or not.
They're trying to represent people very hard. I get it. But you're also being very, I won't say selfish, but you're being absent-minded to the history of this country and what this country's priority should be. Because if it was their country and they were one of the people who were on the bottom, who were pushed and used and abused as almost not aborigines, but the original sin, the original debt of this country, then you'd be doing what we're doing too. But now you come here and you act like we're going to bring in more people, but this country can't even seem to find money to pay the people they already had working. How you think that's going to go for us? How you think we feel about that? We're not saying that we don't want people. We want the country to do what they haven't even done their homework. They haven't even went back and done what they're supposed to. The people who are coming in don't know real American history, let alone respect it or realize what the priority should be. Then the people who are already here are just ignoring it and continuing to push agendas that actually erode at our position. Because now we have a political position that is being counted on by the Democrats, and they're slowly using policies like what Biden is trying to get moving with the census and then just naturalizing all these people to actually undergird a shift away from our potential, which is why we and very, very a large number of other activists last year were extremely vocal about holding Biden, basically holding the vote hostage for real policy, because this is probably one of the few times we have leverage.
Right, because they're using that, and here's the thing, the reason why is because they're using the immigrants as they always have to disposition us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you want to, I mean, clearest example was when Biden was asked in the on the debate stage back before the primaries, specifically about what he would do about reparations or what was his position about reparations. He didn't even
that was the worst answer you could give.
He talked about immigration.
That was the worst.
Like he literally said, like it was like a complete disconnect, and there was no follow up or anything.
Cory Booker was looking at him like, God damn.
And the point being that we're going. They know that. Look. It's already known that black people are starting to wake up to this, and they're starting to peel off. Even in the small numbers that we're doing, in the small numbers that what I'm saying. But this game has been played before. This game has been played before by the Democrats. Have you all ever seen Gangs of New York?
The draft rights. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Right. That's where Tammany Hall and these boss politics, and I mean, there's no. It's not a coincidence that I talked about Ed McNamara, and that's an Irish name. There's no coincidence that Mike Duggan is an Irish person. You know what I'm saying? Like honestly, this the thorough lines to this stuff goes way back. But in the case of New York, what they were doing, they were getting the Irish immigrants coming over, right, to be part of the Democratic machine and vote them in. They were doing all these different policies towards them to get them to boost their political numbers up. You know what I'm saying? And in the machine politics of New York, and it followed everywhere else in all of the major cities, Boston, Chicago, so on and so forth. That's why you had these big boss politics. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, bro.
Another big aspect of the Gangs of New York was the draft riots in 1863. So just like what you're saying, they had new Irish immigrants coming over who were competing with the newly freed slaves from emancipation. Right, we're in the middle of the Civil War, and so what was happening is the black freed slaves were willing to work for lower wages, and like I said, they were highly skilled because in the South, the blacks were the machines. We did the leather, the horseshoes, we built carpentry, everything. We did it all. And so what was happening is the Irish were upset. Two reasons. First, they were upset because they couldn't find work. They wanted the American dream and couldn't find work. Two, they were upset because they had to be drafted into the Civil War, and the blacks didn't. So they had a riot, and it's still to this day the largest racial uprising in the United States history because white Irish were killing the black free slaves, just killing them over their discontent with not having to be drafted and with taking jobs.
Question for the group. So how many immigrants you guys think would come here if America was in an open war inside of this country? You automatically had to be drafted. How many openly coming?
Yeah, not a lot.
I mean, you do have some that enlist because they think it's going to get them faster citizenship. But I mean, it wouldn't be all.
Yeah, it'd be a small portion.
It'd be a small portion. Yeah.
And the crazy thing with the Irish, so Frederick Douglass went to Ireland like 1847 or 45, and he was really over there. He could see them when they were trying to get free from the UK because of the Protestant Catholic divide. So a lot of black pastors and abolitionists and they were trying to work with the Irish, in Ireland. But when the Irish got here, what they realized is the Irish people did not want to join forces with the black people to upend the racial caste system. They wanted to be white and free. So it hurt Frederick Douglass's heart because I forget his name. O'Connor is his last name, I believe. I think his name was Daniel O'Connor. Was a big Irish in Ireland. He was anti-union, meaning the United Kingdom. He was pro-Irish independence. He was Catholic, and he was, Douglass was he was a mentor to Douglass. But when the Irish got to America, all that solidarity shit went out the window because they wanted to be white. They wanted to be free. I got that article too. We'll post that too.
Yeah, they talk about how the Irish became white in that book. What's
his name? Noah Ignatieff. Yeah, they talk about that too. And so it's necessary for black politics, black political maturity for us to understand. Like Gerard said at the end of every show, you don't have no permanent allies. You don't have no permanent enemies. You have permanent interests. And even to that degree, he said he recognizes your interests might not even be permanent. But what you got to understand is just because somebody come from somewhere and they're brown like you, or you think they're oppressed like you, that does not mean they share your lineage or your interest. And so you have got to be more mature. You have got to make sure that your first priority is yourself, your community, your group, right? You can't give out love to everybody, right? We can still recognize the oppressed. We can still recognize the struggle for human decency and freedom and justice, but we cannot divert any energy to that because we here right now, like my grandma used to say, drown a man and reach for a straw. We out here reaching for a straw and we trying to help somebody else get in the life raft. We can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. We can't do it.
All right. So, all right, y'all. We gotta wrap that up. Yeah, so we gotta hit the last segment we got for today, y'all. We're gonna have to figure something out, y'all. We're gonna figure.
You are listening to your man's now. This your man's. Hey, yo, who man's is this? Hey, yo, who man's is this? Hey, yo, who man's is this?
Whose man's is this? I need to know. I really need to know.
All right, so we got some yo mans to share for the people today, I do believe. Let's see what we got. Youngest Trigger Happy Joe. What's his name again?
You ready to sign?
Jim Pro Joe. Say no, Joe. Buddy. No means no, Joe.
Right.
Sleepy no Joe.
Answer,
creepy
no.
Joe.
When you ask him about reparations and he don't answer, that means no.
He always said he want to study some shit.
Right. You've been in there 50 years because you don't know the answer yet.
Well, what he needs to be doing is studying these damn ass fucking stimulus checks. Where's that with them? He ain't studying them hard enough.
Straight up.
No. I told y'all, cuz. I told you. He's not giving you nothing.
The Republicans saying 1,000 and shit.
Joe Biden said that 1,000 too much. We just gave him 6.
So your man's that everybody been out here capping for, you know, Jay Biden, homeboy Joe, who was talking about giving everybody $2,000 off the top when he walked through the door just for, you know, supporting him. You know, he was paying back his constituents for his campaign donations. He said, you know, it's kind of hard to pass this 2,000 and the Republicans getting in the way. You know, we want to do something. So he sat down with him, and I heard there was some discussion about some 1400s, right? Or was it 1600?
No, it's 1400. Yeah, so it went from 2,000. Now it's 1,400. You know what I mean? Instead of it being a standalone bill by itself, because there were Republicans that were already in agreement. So yeah, bipartisan with 2,000. Because remember, you know, Trump said he wanted 2,000.
He did.
Right.
But all of a sudden, you know, now it dropped down to 1,400. Then what we've had, you know, that was, and it's part of, instead of it being a standalone, now it's part of the stimulus package, right? With all the other stuff that's in there. So now the Republicans have said, so Joe said he wants 1.9 trillion stimulus package after we already done passed not too long ago a damn stimulus package, right? You know, with a bunch of stuff. So now the Republicans are kicking back and saying, okay, well, we'll do $600 billion in. You know what I mean? And so that $2,000 check went to 1,400. The Democrats just dropped it down 600 on their own. You know what I mean? With no pressure from the Republicans at all. And thinking like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can't, you know, we don't want to really be on the hook on passing 2,000 and blah, blah, blah. So let's drop it down to 14. Maybe that might be better for them. And then, you know, the Republicans are like, oh, okay, you're going to cede political power to us for no fucking reason? Okay, right. 1,000, motherfucker, I'll raise you.
Right.
You know
and what is this 1,000 is married? Is that 1,000 per person or just the whole couple?
I don't know, man. You gotta break it to the article. I didn't go that deep.
Oh my goodness.
But
I don't know these cats, man. I don't know.
Yeah. And then Biden was like, well, okay, let's talk.
Right. I ain't talking about, I don't want to do this no way. You know me, I don't like giving no money out. I'm trying to protect Medicare, Medicaid, and welfare programs.
Here's the part that just really disrupts me. And this is part of why we labeled this. I know we got way late to it. But this is why we label this good cop, bad cop, man. It's the same game, man. It's the same game. You know, like in the movies or whatever, they have the bad cop come in, you know, when they trying to press, you know, the 48 hours or whatever, you know, hey, blah, 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 like he's about to beat on them or about to beat on the guy. And then they got the other cop like, hold on, man, stop, man, get back. You know what I mean? You know, and then so he could get the trust of the guy, so you know he could tell on himself or whatever. You know, get him calm. You know, hey man, you want a cigarette? You know, we want to get something to eat, blah blah blah, whatever. So calm him down or what have you. The end goal is that that's all a charade. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they want you to tell on yourself, or you know what I'm saying, or put you, you know, or put yourself in a position so they could convict you. You know what I mean? They're not your friend, whether it be the bad one or the good one. At the end of the day, they want to get that confession, or you give that, you know, evidence that's going to put yourself in a bad situation, so they can hand it over to the prosecutor and lock up, clear their caseload, on to the next one. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing politically wise with the Republican and Democrats. You know what I'm saying? On to the next one, man. All they care about is their donors. You know what I mean?
So like good cop, bad cop, like we said, immigration. We seen, you know, Ronald Reagan let in 3 million, Joe Biden saying 11 million. Criminal justice, shit. The Republicans started the war on drugs, and the Democrats damn near completely tried to, you know, win it.
Take it over.
You know what I'm saying? Shit.
Took in the tanks.
You see the Cops TV show? You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Yeah, man. So that's the thing. It's charade. That's that key word that Gerard said. It's all a big sham, and that goes back to being, what do they call it? Political. Being a career politician. It's like everybody's in here being a career politician just to play a game. You take left stick, I take right stick, but we still got the same stick, really.
Right.
Left Twix, right Twix.
The
left Twix tastes best. The right Twix tastes best. They taste the same.
And just like,
both,
you know,
fucking your teeth up.
Exactly. And just like you know, with this whole impeachment thing. Let's talk
Another
about
charade, man. That's what it is.
Let's talk about this, man. So they're saying, man, that Trump, if his lawyers all quit, Trump gonna represent himself, bro, in the Senate impeachment trial, bro. That's gonna be some must-see TV, man.
Right. That's when you sit down and you listen. Get you some popcorn, boy. Have you a steak dinner.
And bro, that's all what this is, man. So the Democrats do have an option. They have an option that they can use to, to get to the goal they allegedly say that they're all about. So the purpose, okay, so the president, this is the first time and ever that you had a president, at least that I'm aware of, tell me if I'm wrong, or somebody tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, that a president was impeached that left office. And then the goal that they're saying is to prevent him from being ever able to run for office ever again, which I'm cool with. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Plus it does need to be addressed. Like, you just can't let that, what happened in the Capitol, just, you know what I'm saying, go. You can't let that type of accountability. But here's the thing. They do not have, in order to go the impeachment route, they have to get 17 Republican senators to agree to impeachment, to convict him in the trial. And they said, I think the last I saw Meet the Press, they had 5. You know what I'm saying? So they're far short of the requirement. Right. You know what I'm saying? So we know he's not. So even if Trump, so mind you, if Trump does defend himself, and it's going to be crazy, everybody's going to be looking, and there's going to be a bunch of eyeballs, and all of the cable shows and everything are going to be freaking loving it. We're going to definitely watch, because we're going to comment about it. So, we do this for, I guess not a job, but you know what I'm saying? But we definitely do it because this is what we're into, right? You know what I mean? Nonetheless, what that's ultimately going to do is that he's going to, there's no fear of him having any repercussions of representing himself. Because, they say, the story goes, or the saying goes, he who represents himself has a fool for a client. But in this case, he's already guaranteed that he's not going to get convicted. So what that's going to do is bolster him going into, look, I done went 2 impeachments. I defended myself the last time. Incited a riot in the Capitol, and I'm scot-free. You know what I mean? That's going to embolden him, dude. And plus,
he might as well start a GoFundMe after that.
Yeah, exactly.
He gonna walk out that. He gonna walk out that room to a mass, a crowd.
Dog. He's coming. I'm telling you, man. And like, you know what I'm saying? The Democrats already,
Hey, Trump bold though. Like, Trump be on national TV on some. It's not true. You guys are all lying. Straight, that shit going in the records. But
if they really wanted to do it, they have a tool. Let's go to talk about this, man. Was our next slide?
Talk about this tool.
All right, the tool here, as everything is off our backs, bro. You know what I'm saying? Even the remedy to this crap is off our backs, or this will be the sure way to knock him out. There's an alternative impeachment or the 25th Amendment for Trump historians. Oh man, you know what? I meant to put the 14th Amendment. I got the wrong article, but nonetheless, the 14th Amendment Section 2, right? 14th Amendment Section 2 is the
might be Section 3 too.
And Section 3,
I think it's Section 3.
Section 3. I'm sorry, Section 3. And the 14th Amendment, that's the amendment, right, that gets the equal power, equal protection under the law. But there's a section that was put in because due to the radical Republicans who knew that these the 13th, 14th, the 15th Amendment weren't passed, that we would be put back into slavery. I mean, they damn near did it with Jim Crow, but at least it wasn't slavery, right, on the books. But nonetheless, and in the 14th Amendment, there's a section, he said Section 3, that states that anyone who participated in insurrection against the United States cannot hold federal office. Right, so all they need is a majority, a clear majority, which they have. They have a simple majority. You don't have to do this impeachment trial, which you're going to have to get 17 Republican senators. They have the simple majority in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, and they can pass that. You know what I mean? Yeah, wrap it up in a bow, be done with it. Trump can't get into office. But they don't. But you understand? They part of the same game, man. See, by having Trump as the boogeyman, that gives them cover for all the BS that they have to do. Because it's gonna be, again, come 224. We can't get Trump. We can't let Trump get back in. We can't let you know what I'm saying. While people go off of that emotionism instead of looking at their record and what they're not doing. You know what I mean? And holding them responsible. They got to have the boogeyman up there, you know what I'm saying, to say, hey, look, Trump gonna come back. You don't want Trump coming back. You know what I'm saying? While we get boo-booed in, while we get,
Ain't no telling what's gonna come. Ain't no telling.
And this 45 Republican senators said that they don't even think it's constitutional to impeach a president after he left office. So you got 45 out of 50 that ain't even gonna play the game. They said it's not even constitutional. So this is all just an exercise in futility. The Democrats like to waste time and energy making people think they're fighting for them when they really aren't. So when it's all said and done, they can say we were doing this, just like Obama with the healthcare debate. He had a supermajority for 2 years, and that's all you got because a House of Representatives, your term is only 2 years. He had 2 years to get meaningful healthcare reform done, and he wanted to try to bring Republicans on board. And then he wanted to say, the Republicans hated him. They stopped them. They stopped you because you allowed them to stop you. You could have just rammed shit through just like they do. And that's the thing about it. When the Democrats have power, the Republicans still manage to fuck shit up. When the Republicans have power, the Democrats can't manage to do shit. It's just because like, what's wrong with y'all?
Because they all really are trying to do the same game, and it's good cop, bad cop. Let the bad cop do the stuff. The good cop is just there to, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened, and we trying, we need your help, and all this bullying. And that's kind of, Anyway. All right, y'all, listen. Listen. We can't talk about none of this no more. We done blew through everything.
Man, 2 hours, bro. This was a deep one, man.
Yeah, so listen, I'm gonna leave y'all with something. Listen, special request. I need y'all to listen to this before we hang it up. We got a very special video for you all. Let me get rid of this thing. Very special video. I want y'all to see Malcolm X, something from not too long ago, well, a while ago. So hang tight with us. We're gonna play this video.
Of housing and education. Let's pick education. How does one bring about compensatory action in education? By having better schools for young Negro children than for white children, if we are talking about integration?
This is very simple. By providing remedial training in reading and in arithmetic, and by providing the best of teachers to these schools which have deprived children in them.
By now, when you say deprived children, you're not limiting this to Negro children alone.
Of course, but the larger percentage of Negro kids are deprived than whites. And therefore, I think a larger percentage of the most skilled teachers are required in that section.
All right, now I grant that, but the question I'm still trying to iron out, and I think Mr. Farmer has for me, is this question as to whether the compensation for discrimination and the lack of equality is to be another kind of discrimination or another kind of inequality. And I think you answer that in the negative when you say that in the schools that you would establish for the previously underprivileged or the underprivileged would include schools for children, not just Negroes, but Puerto Ricans and other underprivileged persons. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, I think you're right there. I would not limit our employment demands to Negroes. I would include Puerto Ricans and other minorities throughout our country, which have been similarly discriminated against, though not for so long a period of time as Negroes.
Puerto Ricans weren't enslaved. This is a problem that stems from slavery. And this compensation, this compensation is coming to people who were enslaved by the white man for 400 years. The Puerto Ricans don't even fit into this picture.
Well, they do fit into it.
No,
they do fit into it.
The problem is the Negro problem. They're not lynching Puerto Ricans.
If a dark-skinned Puerto Rican went down to Mississippi, he probably would be lynched too.
Spanish, he wouldn't be lynched.
No, they don't.
It's the Negro here, and as long as he can speak Spanish or some other language, or if he ties his head up with a turban or something, he can go anywhere in Mississippi or in your home that he desires.
You're not aware of the fact, are you, that African students have been arrested in our demonstrations in the South?
When they
speak French.
When they have been mistaken for the so-called Negro in America, they've been arrested.
What I'm saying is that many Puerto Ricans are mistaken for Negroes. I do not think discrimination.
Wow.
I'm telling you, man. He's the prince, man. He's the prince.
Hey,
That's what people need to pay attention, man.
Yeah.
People need
if
to pay
Malcolm can
attention
see
anyway.
it, why can't we see it?
Right.
And if y'all think if anybody out there respects Malcolm, they should also understand what he's saying and understand that we should not be lumped in with any other group, period. Not even Black immigrants. It's that simple. It's no insult to them, but we got our own claim, right?
This is a problem from slavery.
That's the key phrase. That's it right there. So you want to sign us off, Ernest? What you got for the people before we get out of here?
So like always, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back, in another week from now, or I guess a week.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, back with another episode. In the next one, we'll be sure to try to take more calls, and we should have less technical difficulties. But we definitely appreciate you all for staying true to us and sticking through it. So thanks.
Yep, and I'll say, again, I appreciate everybody for calling in who did today. I wish we could have gotten some other folks through, but the numbers at the bottom, hit the code, get in on the line, and we're gonna keep the conversation going. So be sure to share this video even well after our live stream stops. So thank you again. I hand it over to Stedman for his words before Gerard.
Yeah. So just check the description box after the video is posted. Try to read some of those articles to see exactly where I'm coming from. Check out the book, American While Black. It's written by a woman named Nyambi Michelle Carter. She's an associate professor at Howard University, Black woman. So, she wrote an impactful book just really dissecting immigration and the effects on African Americans. It's all like the subtext is African Americans, immigration, and the limits of citizenship. She really has some great points. It's a great book. We're going to try to get her on here and see if we can interview her about it, because she really has some impactful information and she really breaks it down in a way I had never thought of before. So it's a great book.
And with me being last, Adolph J. Rocky, aka Gerard Ben Lamont, just want to ask you guys, please like, share, and subscribe. That really helps us out. We want to get this message out. We want to get as many callers and many voices into this movement, because we're full throated for reparations. We're full throated for the descendants of American chattel slavery, the descendants of the freedmen. We're full throated, 100%, and we want to reach out, to as many people as we can, and really bring this political education. And part of that also is having a dialogue. Is right now is a monologue of us going one way. I'm so glad that we were able to get my cousin. I did ask her to call in, but nonetheless, I'm glad that she did call, and hopefully, we get more calls. So that's why we went through all of this, the trouble of setting up to be able to take in calls. So I end it as I always do. We have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. Peace.
Peace.